Most men think their problems start on the outside. Bad luck, the wrong woman, the wrong timing, a stacked deck. But the truth is harder and far more uncomfortable. Your life is being shaped by conversations you're having in your own head, and most of them are happening unchecked. Every outcome you're living right now was rehearsed internally long before it showed up externally. The way you tolerate disrespect, the way you stay in situations that drain you, the way you hesitate, overthink, delay, or sabotage momentum. None of that is random. It's the result of thoughts that were never challenged, never corrected, never brought under control. Most men don't lose because they're incapable. They lose because their mind is undisciplined. One negative thought turns into a belief. One belief turns into a pattern. And that pattern quietly becomes a life you didn't consciously choose, but now feel trapped inside. This is why two men can experience the same setback and walk away completely different. One sharpens, the other spirals. The difference isn't strength, intelligence, or talent. It's mental command. One man controls his internal dialogue, the other is controlled by it. And here's the part no one tells you. The world responds to the man you believe yourself to be, not the man you want to be, not the man you explain yourself as, the one your thoughts reinforce every single day. If you don't take control of your mind, your reality will continue to reflect confusion, hesitation, and reaction. But when you do, everything shifts. How you move, how people treat you, and what you allow into your life. This video is about reclaiming that control. Not through motivation, not through pretending to be positive, but through disciplined awareness of the thoughts shaping every decision you make. Because once you master your mind, reality has no choice but to follow. Every standard you live by started as a thought you accepted without question. What you tolerate, what you excuse, what you chase, what you walk away from. None of it is accidental. It's all downstream from how you talk to yourself when no one is listening. Most men don't consciously decide to accept less. They drift there mentally first. A thought like, maybe I'm asking for too much, becomes permission. This is just how relationships are, becomes resignation. I'll fix it later, becomes a lifestyle. Over time, these thoughts harden into invisible rules that govern your behavior. This is why men stay too long in situations that drain them. Not because they're weak, but because their internal dialogue has normalized the discomfort. When your mind constantly negotiates against your own self-respect, your actions follow suit. You don't enforce boundaries you don't believe you deserve. Look closely, and you'll notice a pattern. The moment your thinking becomes unclear, your standards soften. You explain away red flags. You justify disrespect. You accept inconsistency in the name of hope. And every time you do, your identity takes a quiet hit. Not dramatic, not obvious, just enough to keep you stuck. Men who command respect don't do anything magical. They simply refuse to entertain thoughts that undermine their worth. They don't argue internally about whether something feels wrong. They trust the signal. Their clarity isn't emotional, it's disciplined. Control your thoughts here, and your standards rise naturally. Lose control here, and no amount of external success will stop you from settling. Once your thinking slips, a loop forms, and most men never notice it happening. A lowered standard leads to a compromised action. That action creates a result you don't like. And instead of questioning the thought that started it, you question yourself. That's how men lose leverage without losing effort. You start reacting instead of choosing. You explain instead of deciding. You chase clarity from people who benefit from your confusion. And every time you do, your mind quietly learns a dangerous lesson. Your discomfort is normal. That belief becomes the new baseline. This is where frustration builds. You feel restless, irritated, drained, but you can't pinpoint why. The problem isn't the situation alone. It's the internal permission slip you keep handing out. Thoughts like, "I'll give it one more chance," or "Maybe I'm overthinking," keep you emotionally invested in outcomes that don't serve you. Men who stay stuck aren't lazy. They're mentally negotiated into submission. They debate with themselves until the moment to act passes. And by the time reality proves them right, they're already too deep to move cleanly. The shift happens when a man breaks that loop. Not with motivation, with awareness. The moment you catch a thought that weakens your position and refuse to build on it, the cycle loses power. Your actions sharpen. Your reactions slow. Your presence changes. You don't escape the loop by forcing confidence. You escape it by refusing to think in ways that keep you small. Control doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from removing the thoughts that keep pulling you off center. Most men believe control is about discipline on the surface. Waking up earlier, working more, staying busy. But none of that works if your inner dialogue is still chaotic. When your thoughts are scattered, your actions follow. You hesitate at the wrong moments. You overcommit where you should be firm. You tolerate things that slowly drain you, then wonder why your confidence feels unstable. This isn't a motivation issue. It's alignment. A man regains control the moment his thoughts stop arguing against his best interest. When you no longer justify disrespect. When you stop narrating excuses for people who show you who they are. When you stop replaying conversations you should have ended. That's when power quietly returns. Notice how the strongest men don't rush decisions. They don't need immediate clarity. They trust their internal signal because they've trained it. They don't let emotions hijack direction. They let emotions pass, then act from principle. That's the difference between reaction and authority. The goal isn't to dominate outcomes. It's to govern yourself. When your thoughts are clean, your standards are clear. When your standards are clear, your reality reorganizes around them. People adjust. Situations shift. Opportunities open without force. Control your thoughts, and you stop leaking energy into things that don't matter. Control your thoughts, and your presence does the work for you. There's a moment that happens quietly, and most men miss it. It's the moment when your inner world becomes so stable that the outer world starts adjusting without you pushing it. Conversations feel different. Conflict loses its grip. People either respect your boundaries or remove themselves. Not because you demanded it, but because your mindset no longer negotiates with chaos. This is where most men get it wrong. They think changing reality means controlling people, outcomes, or circumstances. But reality responds to consistency, not force. When your thoughts are aligned, your behavior becomes predictable in the right way. Calm, grounded, unreactive. And that steadiness creates gravity. You stop explaining yourself into exhaustion. You stop chasing clarity from people who benefit from your confusion. You stop reacting emotionally just to feel seen. And when that happens, power returns in subtle ways. Your silence carries weight. Your decisions feel final. Your no doesn't need justification. This is why emotional discipline is rare. It requires patience without reassurance. It requires trusting yourself when no one is clapping. It requires walking away without knowing exactly what's next, only knowing what you won't tolerate anymore. That's not detachment. That's authority. Once your thoughts stop betraying you, reality stops testing you the same way. Problems don't disappear, but they lose leverage. You handle them cleanly, without spiraling. And over time, life starts presenting you with better options, not because you asked for them, but because you became someone who could handle them. This is how control actually works. Not loud, not dramatic, just unshakable. This is the final shift, and it's the one most men never reach. It's when you realize that controlling your thoughts isn't about positive thinking. It's about non-attachment. You stop letting every feeling dictate a reaction. You stop letting every thought become a command. You observe your inner world instead of obeying it. At this stage, pressure no longer rushes you. Fear still shows up, but it doesn't drive. Doubt still whispers, but it doesn't decide. You've trained yourself to pause before reacting, to question your impulses instead of acting them out. And that pause is where power lives. This is why unshakable men are rare. They don't collapse when things go wrong, and they don't inflate when things go right. Their sense of self isn't tied to approval, outcomes, or control over others. It's rooted internally. And because of that, they move differently. They choose more carefully. They walk away sooner. They speak less, but with precision. You stop chasing certainty from people. You stop needing closure to move forward. You stop explaining yourself to be understood. Your thoughts are disciplined enough that you don't need external validation to feel grounded. You trust your judgment because you've tested it under pressure. This is where life stops feeling chaotic. Not because it becomes easy, but because you become steady. And when a man reaches that point, reality has no choice but to respond differently to him. Not out of fear, out of respect. This is what it actually means to control your thoughts. And once you do, you don't just change your reality. You outgrow the version of life that used to control you. If this made you realize how much power you've been handing over without noticing, that's a good thing. Awareness is the start of control. Most men spend their lives reacting to emotions, to people, to pressure, and wonder why nothing ever changes. The men who win learn to slow the mind, discipline their thoughts, and move with intention instead of impulse. This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming directed. When you control your thoughts, you choose your reactions. When you choose your reactions, you choose your outcomes. And when you do that consistently, life stops pushing you around. If you're serious about building that level of control, mentally, emotionally, and in how you move through the world, make sure you like the video, comment your biggest takeaway, and subscribe. This channel is for men who aren't interested in motivation alone, but mastery. Control your thoughts. Control your reality.